Good morning, everyone, and welcome. My name is Alisa Slodzinska, and I work for the City of Chicago Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection, BACP. Welcome to the BACP Business Education Workshop Webinar Series. We have adapted our regular business education workshops at City Hall into these webinars until further notice. On behalf of our Commissioner, Rosa Escarino, I want to inform you that business licenses can be processed online where applicable by visiting chicagobusinessdirect.org. And note that all emails and websites I mentioned will be posted in the chat box, so you'll be able to reference them there. If you are part of the BACP Entrepreneur Certificate Program, you can get credit for joining this webinar by sending an email to bacpoutreach@cityofchicago.org. If you want to learn about the program, please visit chicago.gov/business-education. To help guide your business and employees during Chicago's reopening process, please visit chicago.gov/reopening. Also, BACP and the City of Chicago's Office of Emergency Management and Communications created Shy Biz Emergency Alerts. You can opt in to receive targeted emergency alerts for the business community. If you are interested, please visit chicago.gov/ShyBizAlert. And once again, all emails and websites will be posted in the chat box, so you can reference them there. And we encourage attendees to ask questions. Please use the chat box and send your questions to all panelists. There will be a question and answer session at the end of the presentation. And today's webinar will be how to open a concession at OHARE and Midway International Airport, presented by the Chicago Department of Aviation, Concessions Department, and Unison Retail Management. To begin, we have Castalia Serna, Deputy Commissioner of Concessions and Customer Service. Welcome, Castalia.
Thank you, Alyssa, and thank you to all of our partners at BACP. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of Mayor Lightfoot, Commissioner Rhee, and the entire team at the Chicago Department of Aviation, I'm excited to be welcoming you this morning to our Concessions 101 workshop webinar. Again, I am Castalia Serna, Deputy Commissioner of Concessions and Customer Service, at CDA, as we call it, the Chicago Department of Aviation. The CDA and our concession operators have had a tremendous partnership over the years, and that relationship will be even more instrumental in the months and years ahead as we hope to see travel trends up in the right direction. Chicago's airports have proven to be resilient, and we remain confident at the road ahead of us. Economic recovery and opportunities for our local small business community is what brings us here today. In response to COVID-19, we continue to be in coordination with our federal and local public health partners to keep our airports operational and safe, and it's an ongoing process. Passenger needs and expectations are changing as a result of the pandemic, and we have been listening and adapting. Through all of this, we remain a 24/7 operation and have provided uninterrupted concession offerings. We have implemented standard operating procedures for all concession operators to address cleanliness, social distancing, and face coverings. We further adopted contactless payments and will be bringing online new businesses through our recent RFP correspondence to leverage mobile ordering, delivery, automated service, and micro-mart offerings. This webinar is yet another step in the right direction in preparing for the future. That future holds opportunity for you and all of the businesses and vendors in attendance today. In many ways, our concessionaires, many of whom are small, local, and minority-owned, are the backbone of our airport community, representing Chicago and employing tens of thousands of people. During what are challenging times, I want to provide a bit of reassurance. This is not the first time the aviation industry has experienced a major disruption, and every time the industry has bounced back and continued its growth trajectory. Not only that, but as travel comes back, large hubs like Chicago tend to recover even faster. We have history on our side and the hearts of travelers around the world as well. In fact, Chicago was just awarded Best Big City in the U.S. by Condé Nast Traveler, as voted by readers now 4 years in a row. In 2019, our airports collectively handled over 105 million passengers. We serve both national and international customers. To ensure we are ready for the future and remain competitive globally, our landmark capital projects are moving forward, including the $8.5 billion OHARE 21 terminal redevelopment plan. From Mayor Lori Lightfoot to Commissioner Ree to all of us at the Chicago Department of Aviation, we understand that our airports are economic engines, that we must invest in them, and that those investments are catalysts for opportunities that touch every one of Chicago's 77 neighborhoods. From our restaurants and shops right up to the gates, our airports create first and last impressions of our great city. It goes without saying COVID-19 has had a significant impact on the greater aviation industry, just as it has on the local business community. While we navigate the pandemic, we remain poised on bringing job opportunities to our residents. We are committed to promoting equality and inclusion with our concession contracts by focusing on diversity, and we are working diligently to bring new ideas and new owners and operators into the mix. I want to let my team shine, so I'm going to leave it to that. You'll be hearing from our rockstar concessions team, starting with our concessions project administrators, Horatio Watson, Drew Holmick, Mark Wright, and Michael Stein. They've put on an amazing presentation for you. I wish you all a joyous and safe holiday season. Thank you again for your interest in operating at OHARE and Midway International Airports. And with that, Horatio, take it away.
Thank you, Castalia, and good morning, everyone. Today, I will be providing a brief overview of airline operations at OHARE Airport. OHARE is served by nearly 50 of the world's leading airlines and is a major intra-alliance connecting gateway, including United Airlines and their Star Alliance partners, American Airlines with One World, and Delta Airlines SkyTeam. OHARE has multiple non-aligned airlines, as you can see at the bottom of the screen. Here's a fun fact for you. OHARE is a dual hub for United and American Airlines. In 2019, there were over 105 million passengers that traveled through OHARE and Midway airports. Of that, approximately 84 passengers traveled from or through OHARE. 2019 was a record-setting year for OHARE airports, achieving the most operations in the U.S. with over 919,000 takeoffs and landings. That same year, Midway Airport had over 20 million passengers and over 232,000 takeoffs and landings. OHARE and Midway International Airports provided direct and nonstop service to 275 cities around the world. Over 50% of OHARE's passengers have connecting flights and never leave the terminal. What a captive audience, huh? Here are a couple of fun facts for you. OHARE is the only U.S. airport that has flights to 6 continents. OHARE is the most connected airport in the U.S. and second in the world. Here's the big picture. Let's take a look. OHARE has 195 active gates. Beginning in the upper left, we have Terminal 1, Terminal 2, lower left, Terminal 3 in the center, and Terminal 5 to the lower right. Let's look at each of these terminals in detail. Beginning with Terminal 1. Terminal 1 has 2 concourses, Concourses B and Concourse C. There are 14.6 million enplanements in Terminal 1. Major carriers are Lufthansa and United Airlines. Terminal 2 has 2 concourses, Concourse E and F. There are 6.7 million enplanements with major carriers including Air Canada, Delta, and United Airlines. Terminal 3 has 4 concourses. From the lower right to the left, we have concourses G, H, K, and L. Terminal 3 has 17 million enplanements. Major carriers include Air Alaska, American Airlines, Iberia, Japan Airlines, and Spirit Airlines. Terminal 5 has Concourse M. Terminal 5 has a wide variety of international air carriers, flying to 6, again, of the 7 continents around the world. There are 3.4 million enplanements, with several major air carriers including Aer Lingus, Alitalia, Emirates, Etihad, Finnair, and Korean Air. Next, I'd like to introduce to you Mark, who will talk to you about OHARE Airport's concession program. Mark.
Thank you, Horatio. Airport concessions at our OHARE and Midway locations are broken down into 6 categories. These categories include food and beverage, specialty retail, news and gifts, services, duty-free, and advertising. The food and beverage category entails branded and non-branded entities such as Berghoff Cafe and Cubs Bar and Grill, and also includes airport, local, and national brands such as Garrett Popcorn, McDonald's, and Dunkin' Donuts. Passengers have the option to sit down and experience full-service dining at locations such as Publican Tavern and Wicker Park Sushi, or they have the option for faster, more casual dining or bar experience at Chili's or Wolfgang Puck. There are also many options for grab-and-go items and snack options, all conveniently located throughout the airport. The specialty retail category entails brands and concepts such as Brookstone for electronics, Brooks Brothers for apparel, and Barber's Books for your reading enjoyment. The news and gift category includes entities such as Hudson News for souvenirs, which are located conveniently in each of our 4 terminals. The services category includes, but not limited to, automated retail, ATMs, spa locations, and foreign currency exchange. The duty-free category entails the duty-free store, which passengers may purchase items such as perfumes, jewelry, and confections. And the last category, the advertising category, which entails advertisings within the airport through Clear Channel advertising and outdoor advertising through JCDecaux. This next slide represents terminals 1, 2, and 3, and where each concession is located in each terminal. To the right is Terminal 1, which Horatio spoke about earlier, with concourses B and C. The center section is Terminal 2, with concourses E and F, and then to the left is Terminal 3, with concourses G, H, K, and L. One of the first things you may notice is the number of national brands such as McDonald's and Starbucks that, as you see, are located in almost every terminal. If you take a look at the color-coded legend above, in the top left corner, you can gauge where each concession by category is located in the terminal by using its color coding. This is Terminal 5, which was previously our international terminal, but has since added domestic flights, so we removed the designation of international from the name. On the right, it shows the arrival level concessions, and on the left and bottom is the departure level concessions. There is also the same color-coded legend at the top right-hand corner, which you can also gauge where each concession by category is located. This next slide is a concessions performance breakdown by category for OHARE. It lists the total number of stores per category, the total amount of square footage, and sales for 2019. If you divide the total amount of sales, say food and beverage, for example, of $371 million by the total amount of square feet, in this case 127,943, you can calculate the amount of sales per square foot, and in this case, a little over $2,900. This next slide is similar to the previous slide, except this breakdown shows the concessions performance by terminal instead of by category. As you can see, Terminal 3 with total sales over $208 million led all airport terminals in terms of total sales. Next, I would like to introduce Yolanda Woodruff, who will present on OHARE 21.
Thank you, Mark, for that introduction to our terminals and our concessions program. Next, I want to talk about the expansion with OHARE 21. OHARE 21 is the biggest expansion in OHARE's 60-year history. This expansion will provide for more gates, increasing the current number of gates in which you saw at 195 to more than 220 gates. More passenger amenities, such as state-of-the-art passenger screening and baggage handling, improved immigration and customs screening, as well as elevated dining and shopping, and additional passenger lounge spaces. Later phases will include garage expansion and improved roadway capacity and enhanced curbside capacity capabilities. As you see here in this slide, it outlines those areas where those expansions and improvements will take place. OHARE 21 began with the March 2019 groundbreaking for the expansion of Terminal 5. The Terminal 5 expansion will increase the current footprint by approximately 350,000 square feet, providing for more travel options with a 25% increase in gate capacity. That additional space will also provide for 70% more passenger lounge space, 75% more concession space, and other passenger amenities. In addition to the expansion, more than 750,000 square feet of Terminal 5's existing space will also be renovated during the OHARE 21 project. Once the Terminal 5 expansion and improvements are complete, Delta Airlines will move to its new gates in Terminal 5, which will allow for United and American to utilize Terminal 2 to increase gate capacity during the next phases of OHARE 21. The next phase of OHARE 21 includes the build-out of 2 new satellite concourses adjacent to Terminal 1. These 2 satellite concourses will These 2 satellite concourses will ensure that gate capacity will not be reduced at any time during this historic project. Once the 2 satellite concourses are complete, the current Terminal 2 will be demolished and the global terminal build-out will begin. The global terminal will double the space of the current Terminal 2. With 2.2 million square feet, the global terminal will be one of the largest, most cutting-edge terminals in the nation. Keep in mind, at no time during the build-out will gate capacity be reduced. The 2 satellite concourses will accommodate passengers while the global terminal is under construction. Overall, the elements of the OHARE 21 expansion and improvements are designed with the passenger in mind, enhancing the passenger experience from curb to gate. As we see here, the proposed phases and projected completion dates of the expansion as well as the build-out of the 2 satellite concourses and the OHARE Global Terminal. Targeted completion dates, Terminal 5 expansion, 2022, Satellite 2, 2023, Satellite 1, 2024, and the Global Terminal expected completion is 2028. Next, I will introduce Drew Holmick with Midway Airport information.
Thanks, Yolanda. As Yolanda said, my name is Drew Holmick. I'm a project administrator with the Department of Aviation, and I'm going to take a few minutes to talk to you about Midway Airport. In this first slide here, you can see that there are 4 major airlines that operate out of Midway, Southwest being the largest one. They hold 95% of the market share down at the Southside Airport, and we'll jump into a little bit more of the operations. In 2019 statistics, you can see these are the concessions performance by category. As you can see, the breakdown in sales, food and beverage is about 75% of the concessions sales per year, and then news and gifts and specialty retail, which we usually combine as retail overall, is the other about 24-25%, with services about 1%. As far as the Midway Airport Concessions Program, Midway Partnership is a joint venture, and they were selected as the development operator for Midway's concession program following an RFP process that began in the fall of 2015 and was approved by our City of Chicago City Council in 2017. Midway Partnership began in May of 2017, and that's when they began their $75 million modernization and expansion of the shopping, dining, and amenity experience at Midway Airport. The concession space will potentially increase from 26,000 square feet to about 70,000 square feet and increase the number of stores from 47 to over 70. Now, Midway Partnership's development includes bringing in local partners and brands, resulting in one of the nation's highest ACDBE percentages at over 55%, and that was by Q3 of 2020. As part of MPA's contract, all partners and subtenants have been identified at this point. This shows you a breakdown of the concourses at Midway Airport, and this shows you as part of the redevelopment, we've already built 27 new locations, and 16 of those are actually local units. That helps to highlight some of the Chicago's rich culinary scene. So this shows you the great number of stores and restaurants that we open on Concourse B, on Concourse A, and then over on Concourse A, we have our Concourse A food hall. So this is a whole new food hall that we opened up in 2017. And then as far as some opportunities with Midway Partnership, I highly suggest and recommend anybody on the call to visit midwaypartnership.com. And then at the top right corner of midwaypartnership.com, it says About Midway Partnership. This is where you can get in contact with Midway Partnership, and then you can reach out to them based on your level of involvement and opportunities that you can partner with them. And then these kind of list some of the categories that you can partner with Midway Partnership on. Design and construction, there's a multitude of opportunities. And then you see the suppliers and then services. So once again, please visit midwaypartnership.com and get in hold with them to see if there's any opportunities for teaming up over at Midway. And now I'm going to hand it over to Michael Stein, who's going to talk about operating a concession space at an airport.
Thanks, Drew. My name is Michael Stein. I'm a project administrator for CDA, and I'm going to briefly explain the process to operate a concession here at CDA. Companies have several ways to operate a concession. One of the ways you can operate a concession would be as a single operator, where a company leases directly from the airport to operate the concession. Another way would be through a joint venture, where a company enters through a partnership with another company to lease and operate the concession. And the third way would be as a subtenant, where the subtenant leases from a larger concessionaire and operates as a subtenant of that larger concessionaire. Next, you need to determine how you would operate. You can operate as a franchisee. Examples of that would be being a franchisee of McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts. You can enter into a license agreement where the operator would obtain a license with a local or regional brand like a Harry Carey's or Republican. You can operate as a local or regional restaurant, like from a Chicago neighborhood. An example would be like a Berghoff restaurant or Nuts on Clark. And lastly, you can operate as your own unique airport brand that's only at the airports, like our Ice Bar or Chicago Cubs Bar and Grill. This next slide talks about what it takes to become a concessionaire here at the airports. So step one would be CDA identifies a location that's available for lease. Step two, CDA would generate a request for proposal. Step three, respondents were prepared to submit proposals. Step four, CDA would evaluate the responses and select a concessionaire. Once this concessionaire is selected, CDA and that concessionaire would finalize their lease. Then we would seek approval from City Council. Once that's approved, the concessionaire would submit construction projects for review and approval. Once approved, the concessionaire could start construction and then open for business. This next slide lists our goals. The main goal is to optimize revenues at the airport and for our local economy. Also, to maximize ACDBE participation. We'd like to provide opportunities for local brands and operators. Of course, we want to provide high-quality products and services, high-quality facility designs, promote environmental sustainability, increase the variety of offerings at our airports, showcase the Chicago character to the world, provide first-class customer service, and promote fair pricing and a value relationship between your concession and the traveling public. This slide talks about what you need to consider when you're going to operate a concession. You need to determine your hours of operation. You need to make sure that you comply with all badging and security requirements. You need to think through how your employees are going to get to work via public transportation or employee parking. And you need to think through your logistics of how you're going to get your goods in and your waste out. And that concludes my section. So next up will be Yolanda.
Thank you, Michael, for providing that information. Next, we'll talk about those elements of a proposal. So those elements include a cover letter and a transmittal letter. The purpose of a cover and transmittal letter is to describe what you are answering to with regards to that request for proposal. You should also be sure to tell your story, and telling your story includes your experience and your qualifications statement. That story would also contain your methods of management and operations. Who will you have managing your locations? What type of operations will you be required to have in an airport environment? And is it applicable to this environment? So you want to make sure that you explain your methods of management during your operations in an airport environment. Operating at an airport is slightly different from operating any location on the street. The concessions development portion of the proposal must include a store concept and a design. It also must include financial information such as compensation to the city, projected sales, net income, and expected cash flows. Also, capital investment and financing plans must also be included in your proposal. An airport concessions disadvantaged business enterprise goal is usually set with each RFP and must be a part of your proposal when submitted, and it must meet those goal qualifications within your participation plan. You must also include professional references, exceptions to the lease agreement, which is included in the RFP. What exceptions could potentially be are items within the lease agreement that are specific requirements or obligations of the leasee, and you are looking to change the language around that particular requirement or obligation. You can submit an exception to whatever that requirement or obligation is that you wish to change or modify. You must also include the executed proposal affidavit, your business information statement, which once again allows you to tell your story. And of course, financial statements must be included along with that capital investment and financing plan. So what you want to do is you want to make sure when you are completing this proposal that you seek professional guidance, because those drawings for your design and your concept must be professional via an architect or a designer. You must also make sure that your information in your financial plans, your pro formas, are something that is suitable for submittal. Therefore, you will require the assistance of financial professionals in order to pull together that information. So please be aware of the additional costs that are associated with seeking that professional information according to those elements of the proposal. Now, when submitting your proposal, I talked about telling your story. This is a part of how you will tell your story. The minimum qualifications, which is always included in an RFP. What does that mean? You would have had to have 3 years or more experience in the business that you are proposing to operate at the airport. There must also be a minimum amount of sales generated during that 3-year period or a subsequent average of a 3-year period for that existing business that you have experience in. You also must have the financial capability. You must be able to operate in an airport environment, and it is one that has high volume and high capacity. So the department wants to make sure that you have the financial wherewithal to operate in such an environment. And once again, please be sure to seek professional guidance when putting together your financial plan. And of course, once again, it's the Airport Concessions Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Participation Plan that must be submitted with your proposal. And that individual must be certified, ACDBE certified, at the time of submittal. This is an example of rent and fees. There are several fees that are required in a license agreement. Those rents and fees include base rent, a license fee, which contains the percentage of sales and the minimum annual guarantee fee. And we'll go over that in a later example. You have your marketing fee, as well as a central distribution fee if it is applicable to your airport operation. Keep in mind, license fees are set as a range within the RFP. As you see here, the proposed minimum annual guarantee fee has been set by the department, explained here as a range. So as you see, full-service restaurant and bar, the range for the percent rent is between 12% and 15%. You see snack, the range is 13% through 16%. Now, if you look here, you'll see the terms differ between full service, quick service, and snack, for instance. The terms are based on the amount of cost for the improvements that it takes to build out those types of concepts. So a full-service restaurant versus a snack, there's a greater build-out expense. And the term is designed to ensure that the concessionaire has a return of investment applicable to the amount that it costs to build out that entity. So in other words, the term on the lease agreement allows the concessionaire to amortize the full cost of that build-out over the life of the lease agreement. Next slide. Here you'll see a similar breakdown of concession type for news and gift, specialty retail, and so on. Also, the MAG is established by the department, and the percent rent is demonstrated with a range. So news and gift, that range is between 15% and 17%. Services between 11% and 13%. And once again, you see here the varying terms. And the same rule applies with amortization of the costs for the build-out of that particular concession type, allowing for full amortization of those costs over the life of the lease. Next slide. Here is that example of the minimum annual guarantee fee and the percentage rent. Keep in mind here that the minimum annual guarantee fee and percent rent are a part of the license fee. So that means that the greater of the minimum annual guarantee fee or the percentage rent will be due at the end of the year. So let's take a look at an annual example here. This concessionaire proposes to pay the greater of $100,000 of minimum annual guarantee fee or 15% of sales, which is that percent rent number. If the annual sales for that concessionaire are $800,000 and we multiply that by the percentage rent rate of 15%, that concessionaire pays the $120,000, which is the greater of the $100,000 minimum annual guarantee fee or the 15% of sales. In this second example, we'll see that this concessionaire made $500,000, and we multiply that by the percent rent rate of 15%, but it equals $75,000, which is below the minimum annual guarantee fee of $100,000. Therefore, the concessionaire pays the greater of $100,000 or 15% of sales. So these are some specific considerations to consider when you are wanting to decide what you are willing to pay to the city as compensation for operating at the airport. You have to consider the average term between 5 to 10 years, and we've demonstrated through the type of concession concept what those terms may look like. The term is specified in the RFP. You have to consider that Cook County leasehold taxes will be due for the space that you occupy at the airport. Utilities are individually metered and therefore are the expense of the concession operator. If there is not a specific utility at the space that you're planning your build out, that utility will need to be brought to that space at the expense of the concessionaire. Security deposit is 6 months of the minimum annual guarantee fee. So if we use the previous example as the minimum annual guarantee fee of $100,000, then that security deposit will be half of that, or 6 months, at $50,000. Also, consider the historical concessions build-out expenses, which in the past has been upwards of about $100 per square foot. Other considerations. Value pricing. Most people feel that the prices at the airport are not in line with street prices. That is simply guarded through our demonstration of value pricing throughout the airport. What we have done is dedicated individuals to ensure that our pricing at the airport is no higher than those prices charged in downtown Chicago. So we conduct annual pricing surveys to ensure that this value pricing element is met for all of our concessionaires. Sustainability. What we've done is we've implemented the green concession policy, which pours over into the day-to-day operations, including the build-out of our concession spaces at the airport. Because what we want to do is to be sure that we provide a customer-friendly environment and an experience that is healthy for our passengers and our employees, as well as the overall environment. Next slide. We've talked a lot about ACDBE. Some of you may be wondering exactly what that entails. An ACDBE business is a for-profit business that is owned 51% by a socially and economic disadvantaged individual. The management and daily operations of that firm are controlled by that 51% owner that is socially and economically disadvantaged. Next slide. The ACDBE program at the airport is subject to federal regulations. Therefore, the Federal Aviation Administration oversees and regulates this particular program. Our ACDBE goal is established for each RFP. That goal can be fulfilled in many ways. So when you are filling out your ACDBE participation plan, these are considerations. Through direct ownership, that ACDBE goal can be satisfied through joint venture partnerships or subcontracts, as well as purchases of goods and services from ACDBE firms. ACDBE is either pass or fail when submitting your proposal. So you must satisfy that goal or show good faith efforts as to why it cannot be satisfied, and that ACDBE participation plan must be submitted with all RFP proposal responses. Next slide. How to become certified is actually a BACP workshop. If you are interested in participating in one of those workshops, you can contact BACP and register for one of those upcoming workshops. And I believe that is all that I have. And next, oh, wait, I have more. I have key information about notification. So when you sign up for our web alerts at flychicago.com, you will be notified of an RFP release. The proposals are released, and there are typically about 90 days after this release that the proposals will be due. Now, during this time of release, there will be a pre-proposal meeting that will take place. So please be sure to attend this meeting because valuable information will be disseminated. Also, beware of specific deadlines for the submission of questions. During the pre-proposal meeting, people may have questions. However, those questions are required to be submitted in writing and will be answered in the form of an addendum to the RFP. Next slide. Next, we will have Mark Wright to provide more resources. Thank you.
Here's a list of resources in which you might find very helpful as it pertains to opening a concession at O'Hare Midway. The Chicago Department of Aviation link, www.flychicago.com, is a must. It contains information about O'Hare and Midway airports as it pertains to flights, terminal maps, and bids in the contracts. This next slide, you can also sign up for web alerts, which you will be alerted via email on new information such as bid packages, advertisements, pre-bid conferences, upcoming workshops and symposiums, and O'Hare 21. This now concludes the presentation Concessions 101, Doing Business at the Airport. On behalf of Aviation Commissioner Jamie Reed and the entire Concessions and Customer Service Department, we would like to thank you all for joining us this morning. We hope this information was informative. We wish all of you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Hello. Thank you so much to the whole team for the presentation. We definitely had some questions come through, so I will verbally read them out loud, and if the team could please answer. First question is, are there pop-up seasonal opportunities for service business?
At this time, we do not have opportunities for seasonal pop-up, but it's not to say that it might not be available in the future.
Great. A couple questions came in. Will this presentation be shared? I do want to mention that this webinar is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Chicago BACP. I will also put that link in the chat box. Next question is, do you need a liquor license separate from proposal if you plan on serving alcohol?
Yes, you do need a liquor license, and also your employees will need to have specific training regarding bar service and the serving of alcohol.
Someone's asking, what was the website for certification?
So that is the Department of Procurement Services. Let's go back a couple of slides and display. Okay, so that is the Department of Procurement Services website, and that is where you can apply for certification. It is an online form to fill out. It is not a paper form.
And I do want to clarify, BACP used to host webinars or workshops with the Department of Procurement Services on how to get certified. Currently, the Department of Procurement Services hosts their own workshops/webinars right now. So you can also just go to chicago.gov/DPS to see their schedule for when the next webinar will be.
Thank you, Elisa.
Yep. Next question is the airport concessions map available online?
Yes, it is available at www.flychicago.com.
Okay. Question is, can we offer the service of tourism? We sell activities, tours, transportation in the beaches of Mexico.
Currently, we do not have an RFP for tourism. However, if you are looking for advertising opportunities, both indoor and outdoor, those are available through Clear Channel and JC Decole, respectively.
And I can't remember, can you go to the slide for contact information or the slide that had how to sign up for newsletters? Yeah. And if someone has specific questions, is there an email that they could use? Oh, there it is. I'm not sure if this is public information, but what are OHARE and Midway ACDBE participation percentages?
So right now, both OHARE and Midway International Airports have the goal set at 32% of ACDBE participation. However, this is a year when our goal will be reevaluated. So who knows if that goal will be increased or will remain the same, but it is currently 32%.
I believe you already touched on this, but can you elaborate on what compensation to the city means?
Sure. Compensation to the city means rent and fees. The rent and fees are broken down based on the minimum annual guarantee fee, the percent rent, as well as any marketing fees, and any distribution fees. There may also be fees if you operate within an airport. You may find a common area maintenance or CAM fee associated with your operation.
We have a request to see the resources page again. There it is. Good question. On average, how long does the process take from submission to opening?
That actually depends on the type of concession location. If you are looking to build out a kiosk, of course, that's a shorter period of time. If you are looking to build out a full-service sit-down restaurant, that would take longer than a simple kiosk. However, the process, as Michael explained, does include a review by an evaluation committee once that proposal has been submitted. It also has to go to our City Council as well as the Aviation Committee and then back to City Council. Then the lease agreement needs to be reviewed as well as bids for the construction or the build-out have to be received. The plans need to be approved through the buildings department. Utilities will have to be set up. So this is a process that will not be one that takes 1 month. It will not be one that takes 2 months. It may be something anywhere between 1 year to 2 years from start to finish.
Okay. Next question, will there be delivery service RFP opportunities? This person didn't clarify on what delivery service actually means, if it means like to the gate, but can you potentially elaborate on that?
Sure. If that person is talking about delivery services to the gate, boy, that RFP just went out. It was returned on October 2nd. So if this person wants to potentially bid on a similar opportunity that may come up in the future, I would suggest that they go to flychicago.com and look at that particular RFP that was released and where the responses were due October 2nd. I would definitely, ask them to take a look at that as an example. If they're talking about, product deliveries, I don't know if there will be an RFP coming up for, warehouse or things of that nature in the near future.
Got it. Next question is, I have a 1-year restaurant business. This opportunity excludes businesses such as mine. Why is that?
That is an excellent question. You've been in business and operating for 1 year, and that is phenomenal to have that experience. I had mentioned earlier that operating on the street is totally different or slightly different from operating in an airport environment. When you're operating on the street, you are subject to a fewer number of patrons coming into your operation. When you're at an airport, you are actually potentially visible to hundreds of millions of passengers that are passing through the airport environment. Will you have the capacity to handle that volume? We want to ensure that your operation at the airport is a successful operation and that you are not overwhelmed by the sheer volume of patrons that may want to participate or partake in your offering. So that's one of the reasons why we want to make sure that you have at least 3 years of minimum experience to ensure that you are successful in an airport environment.
So we do have a slight follow-up question to that. If we have been in business for 1 year, but the process takes 2 years, does that then qualify us for that 3-year qualification?
Unfortunately, that experience will need to have been accrued at the time of the submittal.
And I believe you touched on this a little bit, but where can someone find information needed for a successful proposal to be an airport vendor?
Excellent question. The one thing I would suggest is for people to take a look at previously issued RFPs. The information is there, and keep in mind that all of the information must be completed. And that is the one thing to ensure that you submit a proposal and that it will be reviewed. You do not want to exclude any of the required information. You want to make sure that your proposal that is submitted as professionally as possible. So those areas that require a professional, be sure to seek professional involvement in those areas of consideration. I don't think that we have a webinar, but that is a really good idea for us to put something together so that people can understand exactly what it takes for submitting an RFP proposal response.
And can you go to the slide for people to sign up for the newsletter again?
Where you can sign up for the newsletter is flychicago.com.
There you go. Let's see. Once again, this webinar is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Chicago BACP. I will post that again in the chat box. Next question is, will the build-out in OHARE affect the actual concessions sales? So I'm not sure if this person means during the build-out, after, if you could maybe talk about how sales can fluctuate at the airport.
Absolutely. So will the construction affect sales? Absolutely, just like the weather affects concession sales. So we will not see a reduction in gate usage during that particular time, but it is unpredictable as to how the concession spaces will be affected overall. Of course, we will compensate moving concession spaces during any expansion or any improvements, so that within itself will affect concession sales. I hope that answers that question.
Mm-hmm. A question came in of, what are the seasonality windows for the airport travel?
Oh, wow. So what we generally see is a slowdown in January, February, a pickup March through, believe it or not, August, And then September, there's a slight drop-off, and then a pickup again November, December, but not as high as August. So those are our seasons. Summer travel, spring break through summer, highest capacity.
I'm not sure if this question is public information, but what is the success and failure rate of businesses at the airport and the lowest amount of business generated in revenue by type, retail, gift, food? So can you maybe give a more general response to that?
Sure. We'll try to move back to the slide that shows the sales per square foot.
Mm-hmm.
Next, keep going up. Keep going up. Keep going. Keep going. So we'll try to get back to that slide. Up, up, up.
Yep.
Up, 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 up. Okay, up, up, up. Oh, wait, did we pass? Okay, here. So up one more. So keep in mind this is 2019 concessions performance. So here we see sales per square foot. And this actually, yes, go ahead.
No, just saying thank you for going back to this slide.
So this is an example of sales per square foot based on concept type.
All right, perfect. So if that person and others want to review this slide. Next question is, I'm a business owner for 20 years in vendor business. I want to open a bubble tea and coffee cafe. Am I qualified to open this kind of business at the Chicago airport, even though it is my first time opening this business?
How long has the operation been in effect?
This person did not specify. I'm assuming this person has been a business owner in the past, but this current concept is the first time.
Okay, so as long as that concept, as long as that person has experience in that concept for a minimum of 3 years. Perfect. Regardless if you, let's say that you were operating a business as a dry cleaner, and then now you want to operate a sub-sandwich shop, but you've only been operating that sub-sandwich shop for 1 year. However, you were previously a dry cleaner for 50 years. You would, and you want to propose that sandwich shop. Although you have that business experience, you need to have the business experience in the area of expertise for which you are proposing. So, yes, I mean, we welcome all business owners. Congratulations on your success. However, you have to have a minimum of 3 years experience in the area in which you wish to operate a concession.
Great, thank you. And I don't see any questions that were left unanswered. Once again, this webinar is being recorded, will be available at youtube.com/Chicago BACP. If anyone comes up with additional questions, please feel free to reach out to the Chicago Department of Aviation. I want to thank the entire team for a very informative webinar this morning. Any final words from the team?
This is Castalia again.
Oh.
Go ahead, Yolanda.
I just want to say thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate your continued interest in doing business at the airports, and we welcome all of you to come check us out, and please be sure to look out for the next RFP. We'd love to have you operating at our airports. And I'll turn it over to Castalia Serna. Thank you.
Thank you again, Yolanda, for that wonderful message. And yes, absolutely. We look forward to any additional questions that you might have. On behalf of Commissioner Jamie L. Rhee, and the entire Department of Aviation. We thank you. We hope that you have a wonderful holiday season, and a very special thanks to Commissioner Esperano at BACP and Alyssa for moderating this session. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
See you guys. Bravo.